Hey everybody, Steph Beckett here. As you may know, I'm taking some time to interview our speakers and guests to help promote Launch Week beginning April 27th. By the way, Launch is a platform for all of our AV tweeps to earn CTS credits, see new products, learn new technology and network, all from their houses. It seemed right for us to kick off this new platform with an entire week dedicated to it. And that is where Anthony comes in. Anthony is a digital sales and marketing consultant, and he's also a member of the rAVe blog squad. So you've definitely seen some of his work if you frequent our site. He is joining me today to talk a little bit about his part of launch. He's giving the keynote on April 30th on House of Worship Day. Anthony, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to start by asking you a little bit about your background and how you came into our industry.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for that stuff. My background started in sales way back when in the 90s, and I ended up making a move and going on staff at a church, and learned a lot about the audiovisual side by doing it, and that was my first exposure way back when. And then that led to two more church opportunities where I was on staff. All of these were very, very large churches, what we would call mega churches, which means they would have a typical weekend attendance of 2,000 people or more. And these were much more, but very large churches. And it was my first experience to see what that was like. I came to a place where I really saw the value of what the technology could do. And as a very, very early adopter, I was often called on by other churches to ask, how do we do what we do, etc. And I just took that as a foray into the AV space. A friend of mine who helped me from Barco at the time, I remember this. He got me an interview with a company in Dallas, and that led to my first sales gig in the AV space. Promoted to sales manager there, then on to several more firms where I ran sales for multiple systems integrators, and then after that moved into consulting, where I served both manufacturers and systems integrators, and then helping them understand how to market to and sell into the house of worship market, and did that for a very long time. And then in my whole journey of continuing to improve, I'm just found that I really liked the way agile thinking works, and got into that. Found it to be phenomenal on the software development side, and saw how to apply to business at whole. So now I'm a business agility consultant, and it has been just a crazy, awesome ride, and all these different experiences have accumulated in more than the sum of the parts. So it's been very interesting for me.
Yeah, and so you have a lot of experience, so you were kind of a great person to ask to speak on House of Worship Day. Your keynote topic, by the way, is on stats, facts, and opportunity in the billion-dollar House of Worship AV market.
Yep.
And you know a lot about that. So can you give me and our viewers just a little preview of what you will be talking about when you give your keynote?
Sure. Gary Kay, one of the co-owners of rAVe, really, and behind Launch, obviously, told me about what this was, and I saw it as an amazing opportunity. I think Launch is going to be a phenomenal platform, and so when he talked about it, I've been writing for rAVe now since June of 2012, and have 194 articles, if I remember correctly,
Yeah.
on rave pubs. And so there's just been a lot of content that I've produced over the years, and it really comes from that depth and breadth of experience. So my friend asked me to help with this launch day, and who was I to say no to that? So I'm delighted. The keynote really does lean heavily into what I have focused on for years here, which is, what is the market? How large is it? What does it mean? What does it mean to market to them? And what does it not mean? There's a lot of it that's done poorly, frankly. And then what does it mean to sell to the house of worship market? Those are all really the things that I bring together with a ton of content and a lot of stats and facts, so that it really makes a very compelling case. And I'm really glad to help Gary in this endeavor.
I think it's going to be really great, and I'm particularly looking forward to House of Worship Day. I think that it's going to be just like packed full of so many education pieces of educational content.
Mhm.
So, what is one thing in particular that you would love viewers to take away from the keynote? Things that they maybe haven't learned yet.
Two things really. Short term would be an immediate how to make quick adjustments so that churches could find you as a manufacturer, as a systems integrator, dealer, consultant. I think that's part of it, and that has a lot to do with leaning into understanding what they're looking for, and it's not necessarily technology. Technology is the byproduct. It's kind of a thing that comes along the way, but what they're really looking for is, like any client, they're looking to solve a pain point or reach into an opportunity. Long term would be to see the immense opportunity for manufacturers, systems integrators, and dealers.
What are some of those pain points that churches are looking to solve?
Well, they're very much in the AV space. They're very much like NOC, so which is a Network Operation Command Center, and those are 24/7 operations. That failure rate has to be zero. They have to have 99.99999 59% uptime because so much hinges on the weekends at churches when it comes to this, and so because of that, one of the main pain points is how do they do that when they're mostly running with volunteers? What do they do when they don't have the ability to have redundant systems everywhere? How do you make that a reality? And part of that is, though it's a complex system, making it simple becomes key. And that's really an operational service and support thing, and that's one of the things I'm going to talk about is SLAs with churches and how to it's a continued value add. I think the other thing they're trying to figure out is how do they afford it, right? Money's actually not the issue in terms of budget usually. What the problem is understanding how much. And there's a big difference between price and value. Anybody familiar with value proposition selling knows that. But I think one of the things that's helpful is when you break it down to cost per service. So if you've got a church that has two campuses that run a total of 10 services on a weekend, and you start doing it, well, the cost per service in a year now is not $100,000, might be $82 a weekend or something like that, right? It becomes, when you break it down to cost per service, much more palatable, and it really speaks to their pain point of we need to be up for services. So what does that look like? That's just one of the examples of something I'm going to cover in the keynote.
Awesome. Well, I'm really looking forward to it. And thank you so much again for joining me. For all of our viewers, if you're interested in joining us for House of Worship Day of Launch Week, it is on April 30th. I will be including a link for registration at the end of the video, and definitely go ahead and register because space is limited and it is filling up. People are excited about this. So Anthony, thank you so much again for joining me. I'm looking forward to seeing you next Thursday.
Thanks, Steph.